This is the left woke culture war. This is one of the crimes in the Federal Republic of Germany. We are against any type of extremism. We are against right extremism. We are against Islamism. We are against left terrorism. And when we sit in the government, the Antifa will be banned as a terrorist organization. When the FDP aunt with the four names calls us brown shit, I'm just quoting her. I would never think of something like that. And you as Lord Flies, then it's nothing other than the language of the Nazis. We believed in the year 1987 it was overcome. This is the thugs of the National Front from all other parties. And why do I say this? It's quite important. And I know tomorrow it will be in the news, but I can no longer hold back. We have to imagine what would be going on if it would be the other way around. Ricarda Lang, God forbid, would stand here tonight. And we would all stand there as a mob and just yell down different opinions. I believe public broadcasting would freak out. Headlines up and down, special broadcasts here and there. None of it. It all slides through. This is the left woke culture war. This is one of the crimes in the Federal Republic of Germany. The attempt to destroy our culture through this left woke fuss, supported by federal broadcast. I can also tell you we are against any type of extremism. We are against right extremism. We are against Islamism. We are against left terrorism. And when we sit in the government, the Antifa will be banned as a terrorist organization. We have to imagine on what ground these seeds of hate, this hatred and violence has fallen. It is the seeds of dehumanization of those who think differently. When a Markus Söder goes and calls us parasites, when Steinmeier calls AfD voters rats, when the FDP aunt with the four names calls us brown shit, I'm just quoting her. I would never think of something like that. And you as Lord Flies, then it's nothing other than the language of the Nazis. That is the language of the Nazis. That what's happening here. And I can tell you one thing, AfD stands and fights for liberty. Let's look at the sins, the crimes of the last years. Our borders have been opened. Germany, de facto, no longer has any borders. The destruction of our energy infrastructure, the destruction of our economy, the destruction of the middle class, the destruction of our culture, the destruction of our historical consciousness, how we're dealing with our pensioners. Isn't that a sin? How politic is treating pensioners with those people that build up this country, that raise kids, their grandkids? Yesterday, I was standing at the information stand, and there came an elderly woman over to me. She said, "Do something for the pensioners." I asked her how much pension she is receiving. The woman told me, and I know you can speak volumes about it, but I would like to repeat this for all, because I also have many younger people here. The woman has told me that she has worked 47 years and her pension is 1100 euros. 1100 euros for 47 years of work. A country, a government that treats pensioners like that should no longer be allowed to look in the mirror, and they should sink into the ground in shame. Another crime, and I consciously call it crime, the destruction of gender identity. How can it be that with all the problems that we have already discussed in all our speeches here today, how can it be that a federal government prioritizes that young people can choose their gender once a year, and that if a man who feels he is 7 months pregnant has his tests paid for by the health insurance company, how is that possible? That is total madness. And I have to be honest and tell you that if we are in the government, we put an end to this madness. It is damaging the young people. It is damaging to our society. And I haven't even talked about this terrible incident in Solingen. I would just like to keep it brief here. Solingen is in North Rhine-Westphalia. North Rhine-Westphalia is led by the CDU. The assassin should have been deported long ago. The CDU-led authorities simply turned a blind eye. I'm asking, are authorities also that weak in enforcement when you drove too fast or somehow you have to pay back taxes? Are they so weak when it comes to enforcement? Mannheim in Baden-Württemberg, a federal state led by the CDU. Also, this criminal should have been deported years ago. And that's also the reason for everything you're hearing now. Today, the traffic light, together with the union, brought out a wonderful package. You know what that is? It's pure panic before the state election. It's purple deception at its best. If they had the political will, they could have done something a long time ago. And then it wouldn't be of any use to just write off the AfD program. Nobody can and should be naturalized if they don't speak the language and don't work here. That's not possible. We can naturalize people in this situation where we don't even know who is here. But what's being done? Take a look at the Ministry of the Interior. There are guidelines, a 10-point plan from Nancy Faeser, which says in Arabic how to best get a lawyer to sue your own authority. It's all just window dressing. What we need is a functioning constitutional state. Everyone is equal before the law. Here it just starts. And we all have civil rights that are protected in the Constitution. And these civil rights were once simply wiped off the table by an infection protection law. You have to imagine that. During the corona measures, our Constitution and civil rights were simply suspended. I can tell you that something like this would never have been possible with the AfD. We have responsibility for the following generations, for our children, for the young people. They need a proper education. What is happening here in the schools? This also needs to be turned upside down again. The children should not learn what gender is and choose genders and smoke weed freely for everyone in this hippie state. No, the job of the school is to impart knowledge, to be able to write, to be able to read, to be able to do math, to be able to get proper training for later professional life. That's how it looks like. Responsible education policy is only possible with the AfD. What we need is not a war in Ukraine. That is not in Germany's interest. Germany's interest lies in peace between Russia and Ukraine. It is our job as responsible politicians to end this unnecessary, senseless death in Ukraine as quickly as possible. And I say it here today, no German soldiers, no sons, no fathers, no weapons in this Ukraine. Never. And personally, I am ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of the fact that after the Second World War, German tanks roll against Russia. That's disgrace for our country. We know from history, and you don't have to be particularly smart for that. But this government doesn't have that kind of smartness anyway. So we're giving up on the traffic lights. It's pointless. And I hope that all of you here will be thrown out of the state parliament in Saxony, Thüringen, and Brandenburg and receive your receipt for your irresponsible actions. Everyone knows that at the end of every war there is peace. So why continue the war unnecessarily and let people die every day? A diplomatic solution has to be found, and that would actually be Germany's task as a neutral mediator to bring about a diplomatic peace. This option has been installed. I can promise you that with the AfD in government, and I don't mean in the state, but in the federal government, there are federal elections next year. We will push forward the peace negotiations and implement an absolute change, of course, in foreign policy.